it's I feel it's funny. We're going through. I almost feel like we're talking about all the negative things about like, oh, like, oh, you have to go do, like, we love celebration nights are so much fun. Like, I hope that people are understanding that, really enjoying it. But I also want to explore, because there are, like,
yeah, no,
I feel like that's a part of it too. Is just like the maybe we can add on to this, just the idea of like following schedule, doing a scheduled thing weekly like that, right? That takes a lot of time out of your day, but it's worth it, right?
Yeah. Welcome to the Circle Dwellers podcast, a production of the Protestant monastic order of Life Mission Fellowship. This is a show about living out the gospel in an intentional Christian community. My name is Matt Krell, and I'm here with my brother and co-host, Timothy Krell. Good morning.
Hey, morning, Matt.
So, we were just discussing that maybe this is going to be a short video, but we shall see. We tend to be rather talkative, but what we wanted to talk about this time is one of the things we do at the monastery, which is our, quote, celebration nights, which happen every Friday after dinner. So, could you explain to the audience what that is?
Yeah, sure. So, celebration nights are something very special to me, just because they've been something that's been a part of my life since, I had memory, that we've been doing. And basically we, after every dinner on Friday nights, we have a kind of designated activity time where we all do something together. There's a lot of different things that we slot into that place. But essentially, we have a specific time during the week, that's Friday evenings, where we say, this time is dedicated to us doing things as a fellowship together, right? And that's a really important thing. Like, it can be something that you could maybe take for granted, or, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, we just
another church activity
times, right? But it's easy to take it for granted and not realize the importance that time plays in our life together, I think.
Right.
It's really, especially at the end of the week too, like, you could be kind of tired at the end and you're ready. I'm ready to go rest or be at home or something, right? But we are very intentional about that and say, no, we really want to make sure we have this time every week where we do things together. This goes back to what we talked before, in the sharing with the cars and stuff, of like not wanting to optimize for efficiency, but, optimizing for flourishing in life together, right? And so, your flesh or your typical thing might be like, do we have to do that every Friday night, or,
I'm
or
tired,
different things like
home.
that, or, it'd probably be nice just to chill on Friday and let everyone decide what they want to do. Right.
Right.
And that's true, but how else are we going to foster being a body and being a people together? Right. Unless we take intentional time to say, this is when we're going to spend time and do things together. Right.
Right.
And it's great to have those impromptu times, right, that people just decide on their own, but it's also good to have corporate times, right? And I think having it every week is really important, where sometimes, otherwise it would just be like, oh, whenever there's a 4th of July picnic or something, like we're doing some big activity. We have a lot of different events throughout the year that we do and celebrations and stuff, but the Friday night times just incorporates that. Let's have a practice every week where we share life together and spend time together and laugh together and do work together, right? That's just something that can be easily overlooked, I think, or be sacrificed on the altar of just wanting to do the convenient thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about, I think, the way we do it is it's not in one sense terribly different from what the average church might do, right? Like, just tons of churches having, board game nights and so forth. at the church. Like that's normal. That's a very normal thing that the church does, and it's all very good. But I think one of the things that makes our attitude towards it different is that we see it as being critical to the communal life and the life of our monastic fellowship, because you can't really be a body of believers if you're not seeing each other regularly, right? And checking up on each other and fellowshipping, in other words, right? So one of the things that we've really tried to prioritize is like having a lot of meals together and trying to ask each other about how our day's gone and that sort of thing, because that activity in of itself is what fosters the group cohesion to be the church itself.
Yeah.
So for me, like, even though it is fun just, hanging out, I wouldn't want to miss it, because that's important for both my spiritual growth as a person, but also because I legitimately have lots of friends and family and I want to see them, right? So I think that's probably one thing that kind of separates it from most of church activities, is that it's not like it, and you're going to understand what I'm saying here, it's not like an optional activity, right? I mean, it is optional.
Yeah.
If you're sick, like, it's fine. You could go home,
Exactly.
and you can go sleep.
Yeah,
It's not like this is any like legal rule here, but
that's a really important thing. I feel like I would like just to emphasize for people listening too, like if communal life is like a new idea or thought for you, like when you hear us talk about stuff, we can, you can hear all this thing. It just sounds like rules and regulations and things you have to do at a certain time,
Yeah.
That can be, like I can totally understand how it might sound like that, but you got to understand, like, it isn't that way for us. Like things are very reasonable, right? Like,
yes, absolutely.
And one thing that we've developed over the years, especially, I feel like, it's just understanding that, like, yeah, the Sabbath was made for man, was not made for the Sabbath, right? That concept, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, if this is generally what we're all trying to do, but like if you're sick, like obviously you don't have to come, like you should probably stay home actually to not get other people sick or something. Or if you are too exhausted for some reason, like, yeah, it's like the all these different patterns and these different things that we've organized for ourselves to do, right, is one, they're there for us, right? Like it's not right. Like, we don't make these rules so then you can just feel good about yourself because you followed the rule, right? Yeah. Like it's doing something, right? And so if it's not like, it's not fulfilling its purpose well because you're not feeling well, or you have some guests coming and there's a thing that you wanted to do with somebody only that evening, or so, like things like that, like stuff like life comes up, right? Like, yeah, okay, like none of our, just that is like there's grace and an adaption in the life, but still you have to have rules. You have to have, patterns that are fostering the thing that you want to bring about. You have to be intentional about it, because the thing is, if you're not intentional about it, like something is forming you always.
Right.
So, I think when we were talking in our Lent episode, where you were saying, one thing is like, oh, like maybe have meals with your family. Like if you don't do that regularly, like maybe make Lent time where you're going to just make sure you do that every day, right? Things like that. Well, that's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, well, we don't necessarily do that because, we just want to be super rigid, right? But being loose about it is also forming you and also shaping you in a certain way, right? Like you don't get to not be formed and not be shaped by things, right? It's just whether or not you're going to be intentional about it and make sure that the right things are forming you or not, right? And that's what all of our patterns, rules, schedules that we come up with are for, right? It's just like, so like, and it's a real it's I feel it's funny. We're going through. I almost feel like we're talking about all the negative things about like, oh, like, oh, you have to go do, like, we love celebration nights are so much fun. Like, I hope that people are understanding that, really enjoying it. But I also want to explore, because there are, like,
Yeah, no,
I
this
feel
is a
like
great discussion.
that's a part of it too. Is just like the maybe we can add on to this, just the idea of like following schedule, doing a scheduled thing weekly like that, right? That takes a lot of time out of your day, but it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
If you hear us talking about it, you might think, wow, this celebration night's supposed to be such a pain for the no, like, no, not at all. But but I think doing anything regularly can feel like a pain, right? Like, because I
at a
think
certain
in
point,
our culture, right, autonomy and flexibility are king, right?
Yeah.
Right? Just like we were talking about with the cars, right? I should just have a car ready to go for me whenever I want, wherever I want, immediately, right? Like, I need that, right? Heaven forbid I have to wait 20 minutes for someone to come back from the store, before I can go out and do my thing, or, something like that, right? It's all about convenience, right? But adding in these times, just like on Sunday, you say like, oh, I'm going to go worship on Sunday, every Sunday, right? And for a lot of times, a lot of Christians, that's hard to do. Like, that's maybe, you're right, once a month. I think I've heard, pastors say that, like, it takes them about a month to see their whole congregation, because not everybody comes every Sunday. But taking that time and not giving yourself an out and saying, no, this is a big rock for me, right? Covey talks about that's a term that we use a lot, of Covey's big rocks, right? Where Covey talks about prioritizing the things that matter. And if you have a jar, right, and you need to put, you have like all of these stones, right? If you put the biggest, the small rocks in first, right, the things that are less important, right, you won't be able to fit everything in. But if you put the big rocks in first, then you can let the little rocks fall around and fill up the cracks, and then you can even put sand in there, right? So, find what your big rocks are and focus on those, and everything else falls into place, is the principle, right? So that's what I mean when I say the big rocks, right? So, for us, like, having that time, the celebration night time, is a big rock. It's a time where we really want to make sure, how are we going to foster our life together, our community, our fellowship, loving each other, spending the fun times and the work times together. Because, and the other thing is, even with us in a community, you can go a long time without seeing somebody. Like, that's what our common meals are for, right? To make, but even still, there's sometimes someone, it has an appointment or something, or you're not sitting with them, and so you don't see them or talk to them much, right?
And it's especially true about you and I, because we're programmers by profession, right? So the truth is, I'm sitting at my desk all day working on stuff. There's just a large number of my brothers and sisters here I just don't see throughout the day.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I think, finding these areas as a body of believers is really important, that you can kind of commit to and say, we're going to dedicate this time weekly. I think that's important, to live life together and be intentional about it,
Yeah. This may not be a problem for people, but maybe it might be helpful to talk about, like, ideas on what you could do with a big group. Because, I mean, there are problems with scale, right? Like, if you got like 30 people sitting in a room, what do you do? Right.
Well, there's so there's a few, maybe we could talk about, there's quite a few things that we slot into this time of celebration nights, right? The other thing that we find very important is it does provide a time to bring guests as well, and to show hospitality. And that's another thing that you would miss out on if we didn't have this time, right? Is there'd be fewer times to actually have guests come and us to be able to show hospitality to them, right? So generally, oftentimes, if someone's interested in visiting, or we've met someone new, just a wonderful place to, get to know them more and everything, and is something to invite them to, is to our celebration nights, right? Which, by the way, if you're ever in the area, we would love to have you. If you're listening to this video, come by one of our Friday night celebration nights. Come for dinner. Usually our dinners start at 5:20, and then we'll eat, clean up, and then have a celebration night, usually till like about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, So, and if you want to come, absolutely reach out to us. You can go on our website, life-mission.org, and there's some phone number and an email address. You can email us, or you can reach out to us on Twitter if you want, Matt or I or anybody. But yeah, we would love to have you. So that's another just great benefit of this time, is we're like, let's have a time where we can also fellowship with other people not in the fellowship as well, and invite them into our fellowship. So that there's that time on Fridays. But so we've done so many different things for this. But I guess the general idea of celebration night is a fun activity for all of us to do together, right? So it'd be like games, group, the most common thing that you would think of is group games, right? So we've done a lot of those, but there's quite a few other things that we'll do during that time. During the summers, one thing we'll often do is we actually have a deck and a pool out back and a fireplace. So we'll often actually just eat our meals out there and have kind of a little bit of a cookout, and then just hang out around the pool, swim. Some people just talk and chat. Other people play some, games on the lawn or something, some croquet or badminton or something, or throw a frisbee around and stuff like that. So typically during summers, and that's usually a nice time too, because not everybody's around during summers, because that's usually when most people's vacations
so it's a lot easier to coordinate. Kind of
yeah. So that's we call those pool nights, where we just kind of all go out, hang out at the pool, but and then we've done group games. Kate, my wife, is the special events coordinator, so she loves figuring out games for everybody to play and everything. So she's very creative and really good with that. So she's come up with lots of fun different games. Last night we just did one which was a surprise night. So surprise nights are a thing that we incorporated, where the different families, instead of it being Kate determining what the activity is going to be that Friday night, a family gets to come up with what the activity is going to be that night and surprise everybody, right? And so that adds a lot of richness. I feel like that also kind of falls into another principle that we have, which is kind of one of trying to foster ownership in everything that we do, right? So if you could imagine, if we didn't have surprise nights, right? It can be, that kind of be oh, the community organizes a time, and now we're going to do the thing the community said, right? But if you have this intentional time of no, this is all of us, right? And so we have a time where different families get to organize an activity, and they have some ownership in making that time special and making celebration nights do what celebration nights are supposed to do, right? I think that's really important. So it was the Pope's surprise night last night, and they had us do, I'm not even sure if there's an official name for that kind of game, but essentially it's like Pictionary, but with Play-Doh. So basically,
a word for it, but I know.
Yeah, I don't know if there's is there a game that does that, or I don't know if they. Yeah, but it's basically So, and it's instead of Pictionary where you're drawing stuff and then everyone has to guess what the thing is you're drawing. We're doing sculpture where you're supposed to sculpt out of Play-Doh the prompt, and then people had to guess. And we had 2 teams, and everyone guesses, and
iPhone with camera pointed at the Play-Doh, so
so everyone gets to see what they're coming out with, and it's very hilarious.
Very high tech here.
And it's very humorous to see what people can guess from very amorphous blobs of Play-Doh.
Yeah,
but
surprisingly,
so we've done trivia games. We'll do board game nights. We just had a big one that we invited a lot of people to. A lot of us are big board game enthusiasts. Matt and I both have quite a few board games and stuff.
I mean,
so those are always fun.
You and I are the board game enthusiasts. We're just dragging everyone else with us.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely a few other people who really enjoy them.
There's Catan games that happen all the time and all that. But okay, whatever. My point is that we're not gonna sit down everyone to go play a game of Twilight Imperium or something. Okay, that's not happening. There's 6 of us.
That's a little bit beyond the period of celebration nights, anyways. Yeah, it's got to kind of fit within an hour and a half or 2 hours max, not 12 hours. But so we'll board game nights, extremely fun. You have written down here that we did broom hockey.
We did that once, and then we put holes in the sheetrock.
We've done it. I think we've done it at least twice. I'm pretty sure, but yeah,
no, you're right. We did a couple times, but
some indoor games we've found are more ill-advised than others and pose a risk to.
Yeah, now we have
paintings hanging on the wall and then sheetrock getting holes in it.
You got the giant TV and these massive chandeliers sitting now in the dining room. It's very gorgeous. So that not happening anymore.
Yeah, no, I feel like some of my fondest memories of living in our fellowship come from celebration nights.
It's true.
I remember we did spoons one night, and
spoons can get violent.
Oh yeah, I remember pulling Kelsey across the table at one point. That was pretty funny, but there's all sorts of memories like that it gives you times to make memories together. We'll watch movies, of course. There's a lot of fun. This wasn't strictly celebration night per se, but we just recently watched the Bonhoeffer movie. That was really, really neat, getting to see that together. Let's see. We've done taste testing challenges and stuff. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, you were probably pretty young, but I remember one time we had we had gotten donated a bunch of food that was pretty much going bad and wasn't really worth eating at all or something. And we used a bunch of it to do food sculptures.
I do.
That was really fun. There was some really creative things. That was amazing. That's another
I didn't
thing.
realize what the context was of that. That's what that was. Okay,
we do like to do a lot of different things that help let people's creativity come out too. Those are really fun. And oftentimes it's funny too, because for those, usually by a Friday, my brain is all fried at the end of the workday, and I've been thinking hard about programming and all sorts of things and schedules and meetings and stuff. I'm I just don't have any creativity in me, and then you always do. It's always fun once you get into it. So for Valentine's Day we made these I'm totally blanking. Origami boxes, right? Yeah. So we all learned how to make origami boxes, and then we made we all drew a name of someone to give a Valentine's to, and then we wrote little cards in the boxes and stuff. That was really fun. Another one that we'll do is pumpkin carving. So generally once a year, we'll do pumpkin carving, and everyone has an hour and a half. It usually goes a little bit longer than that because it could go longer than that. And it's a big mess and everything, but it's fun. And then everyone lines up their pumpkins, and we turn off all the lights and get to see what everyone came up with and take pictures and stuff. a lot of times we'll use celebration nights as well for some of our big events throughout the year too. Like a big one is History Night. That'd be kind of fun to go maybe actually do a dedicated podcast episode too about History Night. It's time when we review our history and how the Lord's called us and all the things that have happened in the life of our community. But those happen on Friday nights, right? And we'll take that time. And then often we have events coming up that we prep for too. So like if we have Christmas celebrations coming up, we'll take those nights to all decorate together, So that becomes a big time where we all do all the decorations, right? And in theory, I mean, we have just like anybody else, we have busy schedules. But in theory, like a lot of those decorations, like we could find a way to just dedicate people to do all the decorations, right? But I think like having that time be the celebration night, I think that speaks something to us and trains something in us as well of like, not only is just playing games what celebration nights are about, but it's about sharing the important aspects of our life together and having everyone come together to decorate the Christmas tree and hang up all the ornaments and put the lights up around all on the same night, right? Is us as a celebration night of celebrating, the new season together and, making our public space be something that we all are part of, right? Rather than it being something that, just these other people just always do that. And I'm not involved with that,
Right.
So celebration nights, it's about bringing us all together and making us be one coherent body. And I think there's so many different things that can go in celebration night, as you could hear. You have everything from games, crafts, activities, just doing work, right? Decorating, things like that need to happen. Important events, all of those kind of things. But the important thing is that we have dedicated one evening every week where we say we're going to come together and live as a family doing activities together,
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of the best parts of this life. Like I said, definitely some of my fondest memories are wrapped up in the celebration night as well. All right,
definitely.
So we did, in fact, get like 30 minutes of conversation out of that topic. we weren't sure if this was going to actually fill up time, but I guess we're pretty good.
Hopefully, it was actually content worth listening to. And
hang on, I just hit my desk here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, your camera's like shifting around a little bit.
Yeah, and one of those fancy standing desks. Fortunately, I was stupid to keep the controls like right here, so like
it'd be hilarious if it just kept going up on you, and you just.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to us ramble for a while, everybody, about celebration nights or little fun stuff we do. If you're interested in hearing more about this, please hit the subscribe button, comment, Xerox the video if that's possible. Do all the normal things that you're supposed to do on YouTube to make the algorithm happy. And also
Xerox the video, what would that even look like?
I have no idea.
And then you have to be like animated.
I just say it because it's funny. I have no idea. Oh man, there's some skit I saw the other day about this guy was asked to print out a video for this presentation he was supposed to give to people. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Nerd stuff. Okay.
I interrupted your sign off. Sorry, but anyways.
Right. Fine. We don't know what we're doing either. Right. So yeah. So anyway, if you have any ideas of what we can talk about on this podcast, please let us know because we'll write it down and we'll work on that. Also, if you got fun ideas for us to do for our activities, please let us know because we're always interested in ideas. And also, I think Tim mentioned this already, but if you want to come visit us at the monastery, Friday's a great time, like I said, because we're doing these celebration nights. And you can go to our website to go look at the details about that, send us an email, and so forth. So anyway, I think that's it. that's all the plugs.
Yeah, that's all the
That's it.
plugs.
All right,
thank
cool.
you so much, everyone, for your attention, for listening this long, and we hope that you got something worthwhile out of it. And like Matt said, like if there's other activities of things that you've really enjoyed, group games and things, we'd love to hear more ideas. It's always fun to get something fresh. And yeah, God be with you, and have a blessed day.
All right.